Hello everyone. I woke up to a winter wonderland, very snowy out. Today is day 21, should be, and then there's I think a couple more to do, so I'll do those. But the request, an anonymous request, was why do I stay in my relationship? Now that can be an intimate relationship, it can be a relationship with a partner. Like a business partner, it can be a relationship with a sibling, it can be a relationship with a parent, it can be a relationship with a kid. But in my relationship, this more specifically is about intimate relationship, but you can the request was so you can and I resonate with this. I have definitely I'll be married to my husband 20 years in June, and we've been together 21, and I know we've both had times where like, what the hell? I mean, really? Like what? Many times, I'm sure, throughout that time. Yeah, it's a work in progress. I do think that we're sold a bill of goods in movies and romantic, comedies, novels, everything. And I say this all the time. The story usually ends when they get together. It doesn't go to the grist for the mill part of how do you stay together and when you can't stand the sight of each other, and how do you do that? And I know most people I know have challenges, absolutely. We all do, but it's so this specifically, and I know a little bit of background of this is and I have some of this myself. So, it hits very close to home. At times when you see stuff happen in your relationship and you're like, why do I stay with this? Like, why do I stick this out? Like, what I notice this in myself, and I notice this in people that I work with, is it is, again, shocker, it's the judgment of self. It's the beating of the self for why do I stay in this? The judgments that we have about it, instead of realizing it's the wounds, the wounding that keeps us in there. And to me, the thing to find peace with is I'm going to stay. I'm going to stay until you're not, or you may stay the rest of your life. And I'm not here to tell anyone what to do. We have to make that decision on our own. And I always encourage people in this to get help from a professional. Because there are things in relationships like, there's obviously domestic violence, and the physical stuff, I think is more what I found with people that I work with. It's more evidence. It's physical evidence of what's happening. It's the emotional stuff that's not. And there was a gal, Sharon, I can't remember her last name I think it was Eggert. And she talked about neglect, ignoring, all that is emotional violence. It's emotional violence towards another. So that's the sneakier aspects of this. What I do believe, I say this about my relationship with my husband now. I had no idea how low my self-esteem was. I'm not kidding, until I got in a relationship. And I was married before. I had no idea. No idea. And then having been married before, I'm like, I'm the common denominator. So the things that are showing up they've got to be in me, and not, I've judged the heck out of myself for it, but this idea here is to not do that judging, to start to practice like, well, of course I do that. Of course I would be in this relationship. That's what I saw. That's what was modeled for me. And what if I'm meant to be here to heal it? So that's my monologue before we tap. Hey, Trish, Connie, Barbara, that's who I can see is here. So let's start tapping. Even though I asked myself, probably in a pretty shaming way, why do I stay? What's wrong with me? I feel so weak and pathetic. I choose to acknowledge I feel this way now. Even though I judge the hell out of myself for staying. I make myself so wrong for staying. I choose to honor this truth right now. Even though I put up with a lot of shit, I bet others wouldn't put up with what I've put up with. I deeply and profoundly accept myself anyway now. Go to the eyebrow. No, I don't. I don't accept myself. Not at all. I judge the hell out of myself for staying. If I really pay attention, I bet I brutalize myself for it. Make myself wrong at every turn. I'm not a strong, empowered person for staying. I'm weak and pathetic. There are so many others who would never put up with what I put up with. And there's the beating. The beating of self. And I think I've suffered enough about this. So what if I could start to see this differently? What if I could tell myself a different story about it? Even just 1%. What if first and foremost, I could recognize it's the wounds, the wounded child in me, who will sell their soul to not be abandoned. What if that's what I'm fighting against? I'm actually fighting against my inner child, who's terrified, who couldn't run away, who had to sit there and take it. And what if that's something I learned to do too? What if I could start to soothe this part of me? Really tune in with my inner child and tell them it's okay. You're not weak. You're not pathetic. You're not wrong. You're not a loser. You learn to be disempowered. And learning a new way of being takes time, takes some energy. And what if for right now, you're staying? What if you could make that okay? As crazy as that sounds, what if you could? Because otherwise, I argue with reality. I'm staying, but I should go. I'm staying, but I should go. I'm staying, but I should go. That's the inner battle. And what if, by starting to practice making it okay to stay, even if it's a day at a time, a moment at a time. What if that creates space and an opening for healing, real healing, to begin? And what if through this healing, I learn to become more empowered, and in the right time and in the right way, I start to learn what I need to do? And what if the answers I need start to come to me with grace and ease? Because I've stopped punishing myself and making myself wrong and judging myself. And what if that changes everything? So take a breath. Honestly, this is my stance on pretty much everything. I have a emotional eating group that I work with, and we've been together for quite a while. It's a very small group, but they wanted to stay together, and I host it. And you can have, and again, I'm not giving medical advice here. I have to do my disclaimer. But what I see where the punishment comes in is, I got to stop eating, but I can't. My doctor's telling me I've got to eat this way, but I can't. That's the punishment. Yeah, the doctor is telling you something that would benefit you, but if you're stuck in that cycle, that's just more punishment. It's just heaping more on. And in this relationship with relationship arena, it's huge. It's huge to make ourselves wrong and to be like, oh my God, I'm so weak and pathetic, and that person would never put up with this. Every one of us puts up with stuff. We all have different deal breakers. And then you can have the extreme the other way. And I've met people like that. The slightest infraction, they're out of there. So that's like the opposite end of the same spectrum. They're like, I'm not putting up with anything. But then you're never learning to work anything out. And then I believe, like I said, for myself, my self-esteem now is way better because of what I've gone through with my husband now. I truly, and I'm saying this is for me. Everybody's got to decide what's right for themselves. In the beginning, I was like, holy crap, I must think nothing of myself. And I really awakened to that. And I do believe people in our lives are the awakeners. And usually the most divisive people are the biggest awakeners in our lives. And that's not to say you got to and obviously I'm going to make this huge disclaimer. If you are dealing with, physical, emotional abuse, get professional help. Get professional help. This is the prompting of this was someone that I'm working with who's like, just feels so bad about themselves because they're like, I put up with this stuff that, I don't think anybody else would put up with. And I would tell you, from what I've seen, it's way more common than we talk about. It's not really a talked about subject, and it's we're talking about a forbidden subject. So to me, the gateway is to go, I'm staying. I'm making a choice to stay. Can I make that okay for now? Because that lightens the load. It's making ourselves wrong for all these things. Because when you make it okay to stay, you create this space, and it can be staying temporarily. It can be staying forever. And everyone has to make that decision for themselves. But the point is, it's like the whole forbidden emotion thing. When we deny it, it grips us. When you go, okay, it probably sucks for me right now, but I'm staying. It sucks. But that's better than this constant inner battle that I go through where I'm punishing myself for staying. Because then you make that You give to that little child in you what they never got, acceptance for whatever their behavior is. And that creates the opening for real lasting change to happen. I mean, I've seen this so many times. So I hope you found this helpful. I know it's a sensitive subject. This could be a whole freaking course in and of itself, a huge one. But so Ida, Trish, Connie, Barbara, thanks for being here with me. And this will be posted later on YouTube when I get back home today. All right. Talk to you later. See ya. Bye-bye. See you back here tomorrow. More to come.